Hello, and thank you for tuning into this week's Mayor's Update. As always, we have a lot of important information to share with you here this week, so please feel free to share this video with your friends, family, relatives, and everyone else who you think might find this information helpful over the course of the coming week. We're going to start off by talking about a couple of our infrastructure projects that we have going on right now throughout the city. Kendall Street is set to be paved next Wednesday, barring any major weather concerns. So if you live in that area, just know that next Wednesday you can expect some traffic delays due to the fact that the trucks will be out putting the second and final coat of pavement on. Over the course of this coming weekend, so beginning on October 22nd, our crews will be out in the Douglas, Robillard, Wickman, that area of the city to begin to lay out the concrete crossing ramps. Those are those ADA compliant ramps that are at every crosswalk to make sure if someone is in a wheelchair or does have any mobility issues that you don't trip over the curb or the sidewalk. So those will be poured in this week. And then hopefully sometime next week we'll be able to get to the sidewalks. And then once the sidewalks are done, we'll be able to put the second and final coat of pavement on. And same thing over in the Warwick area. We're hoping to get to that sometime next week as well. So I do want to say a very special thank you to all of our hardworking crews at the DPW for trying to get these projects done as efficiently and quickly as possible before the snow falls. We really, did a lot of work on our roads in the past 2-3 years, especially this year alone. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that progress continue once the snow is done, but really getting these projects wrapped up so that we don't have to worry about any delays or any concerns about a road not being fully done by the time the snow meets us pretty soon in the next couple of weeks here in Gardner. So thank you very much to everyone who's been involved in those projects. And while we're talking about our infrastructure projects, I feel like it's also worth mentioning the Uptown Rotary bids are going to be closing very shortly. That means that we are still right now on schedule for a March 2023 construction date for the work done at the Uptown Rotary. So we are going to be expecting that sometime in the spring. And again, the design is to make that rotary more circular than the amoeba shape that it is right now for, really traffic and safety concerns, line of sight concerns that have been raised with people who are driving in that area, and really just making sure it's a safe and secure intersection, because it is really one of the most highly trafficked areas that we have in the city, with the college there, the Gardner Public School complex just above the area on Pearl Street, Elm Street School, that's still currently being used as a school with the Gardner Academy, the superintendent's office, and the Boys and Girls Club. So we want to, and then of course the downtown area. So we want to make sure it's as safe as possible. So thank you very much to our city engineer, Rob Oliva, who's really been spearheading that project, as well as our DPW business manager, Chris Coughlin, for the work that they continue to do to get everything as it needs to be so that this project can move forward quite quickly. Rob is also one of the people in charge of the bridge that's soon to be constructed over Route 140. We are still looking at a 2025 construction date on that. However, we did get notice of the 25% design completion. And why that's an important milestone is that's one of the stops that the Department of Transportation has for just reviewing the design to make sure that all the specs preliminarily meet all the requirements, since it is going over a state numbered highway. So that process is actually currently ongoing, which does mean that we currently are still on track for the 2025 construction date for the Route 140 bicycle and pedestrian bridge that'll go over that and connect the North Central pathway from Gardner to Winchendon. So really a lot to look forward for in the next coming years in terms of our infrastructure, aside from the work that we've already begun to do here. The Following Stroll is back in Gardner. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with that program, that is the day that students age preschool and under, children age preschool and under, you don't have to be a student, can go through the downtown area and Gardner City Hall's offices and trick or treat as a way to make sure that, some of our younger population can get out and trick or treat at a time that it's still during daylight. There aren't as many big kids around, so there's no concerns about any potential safety issues or bullying or anything like that. It's just to provide a safe and fun atmosphere for the youngest ages that we have here in Gardner. So again, that'll take place on the Friday before Halloween from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So from 10 to noon on Friday the 28th. There'll be trick-or-treating in the downtown area and in the offices of Gardner City Hall. So if you have anyone of that age group that you knew would be interested in participating in that event, it's always a fun event. And after 3 years of not having it, it's great to see that it's coming back to downtown Gardner and Gardner City Hall. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all the smiling faces of the children who participate as they get their candy and all their costumes for a very early trick-or-treat. That said, trick-or-treating for just general citywide will take place on Monday, October 31st from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Our usual times on actual Halloween day, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Those will all be posted on the city's website and social media pages as they already have been. They'll be, just re-upped like we normally do throughout the week leading up to Halloween. I want to say congratulations to Gardner's new Deputy Police Chief, Nicholas Maroney. Deputy Chief Maroney, began his tenure with the Gardner Police Department in 2010 and worked his way up from a patrol officer to the rank of sergeant and most recently to the rank of lieutenant, overseeing our community policing efforts, where he's really made a large impact in the community that way through his work with our schools and several different community organizations such as GCAT, the AED Foundation. He's always been a constant face out in the community. So really looking forward to seeing him now taking on the reins as the Deputy Chief for the Gardner Police Department. His temporary appointment has been submitted and he will be reviewed by the City Council in the upcoming month or so with the Appointments Committee and then the full council taking a vote to finally confirm that appointment if that's how they vote. So I just want to thank Deputy Chief Maroney for his willingness in stepping up, and thank everyone for their patience throughout the city during these trying times that we've had in Gardner at the Gardner Police Department. We really did go through a lot of transitionary periods with the changing of the dispatch director, the chief and the deputy chief, but with Director Rossi leading our dispatch center, Deputy Chief Maroney, and Chief McAveen. I'm very confident that we have a very strong and stable cadre leading our Gardner Police Department, and I'm really happy to be on the same team of them and looking forward to the work that they're going to be doing to really grow the services of that department and really make it a community police department. That said, over the course of the coming week or so, we will be announcing the promotions that will be made over there on an acting basis. Both Chief McAveen and Deputy Chief Maroney held the positions of lieutenants, so that opens up 2 lieutenants positions that can only be filled by people at the Gardner Police Department who hold the rank of sergeant, and so that also leaves 2 open sergeants positions that can only be filled by people currently at the Gardner Police Department holding the rank of patrol officer. So Chief McAveen has solicited interest from our officers who are currently serving at the Gardner Police Department. These will be promoted on an acting basis. And the reason why it's an acting basis is we are still waiting for any action from the state legislature to determine if they approve of the Gardner Police Department leaving the provisions of civil service. For those of you who may not know what that is, back last June, so over a year ago, the City Council voted to accept mine and the police union's proposals to remove the police department from civil service, which means we can hire people directly rather than only people who took a state-issued standardized test. Now, under the civil service provisions, you can only hire people from that test. You cannot hire anyone who has not taken that test. There's certain people who live in Gardner who have taken the test who are further down on the list than certain other demographic categories that are there. So Gardner actually came up with its own hiring and promotional policies and procedures that are available here if anyone wishes to see them. But we cannot go on our own hiring and recruit directly from places like Fitchburg State's 4+1 master's program in criminal justice or different other policing initiatives until we are removed from civil service, because again, civil service laws bar us from doing direct recruiting to anyone who has not gone through the state's civil service office and their application received to us from the state rather than us being able to recruit directly. So we're hopeful that there'll be some action on that, since it is about a year and a half in since the City Council did approve sending that home rule petition to the Commonwealth. We hear it's in the House of Representatives Committee on third reading, so hopefully there'll be some action so that the House can vote and then the Senate can take it up before the legislative session ends on December 31st. But that is why those promotions will only be done on an acting basis rather than a permanent basis, is because right now, in order to do a permanent promotion, someone would have to take the civil service test for that promotion position. And then we have no one currently on an acting lieutenant's list. and we have very few people listed on the sergeant's list currently. So it's really, tying things up there. Aside from that, we also have 4 vacancies within the police department. So we're hopeful to get that all taken care of soon if the legislature votes to take us out of civil service. However, in the event that that does not happen by the end of this legislative cycle in Boston, we do have contingency plans ready to call for a test and promote through the regular civil service procedures as well. But right now we're going to continue on an acting basis as that's what Chief McAveen and I have deemed the most appropriate form of action for us to go forward with in that procedures. And I want to thank everyone again for their patience, because this is a community thing. We are a community police department that we have here. And really a lot of people are just curious as to what's going on. So now that we have a stable department, I'm really happy that we can take that next step forward and really close that chapter behind us. The last couple of things I want to say is just a shout out to our veterinary tech students over at Mount Wachusett Community College, as this past week was Veterinary Technician Week. So thank you very much to all of those students who are taking some time to learn the techniques, if you will, I guess, of being a veterinary technician, and really helping all of us who are pet owners here in the city of Gardner. And I'm looking forward to seeing the impact that they make after they graduate from their time at the Mount. And lastly, we just want to throw a couple of reminders out there to residents. The first is that if you received this postcard in the mail from Gardner City Hall, it looks like this on the other side. This is a legitimate piece of mail that was sent from the city. If you see anything that has the city seal on it, you can likely guess that it's a direct mail from the city. But always, if you have any questions, you can contact my office at any time, and we'll certainly clarify that for you. This is notifying our residents of the electrical rate changes that we mentioned in a couple of these updates now, that the city's municipal aggregation rate, and what that means is the city went out for bid for electrical providers for our residents, so that we could get a better rate for our residents, because the city is able to go out in bulk for the different homes and accounts that are located here in Gardner. And because we can get that higher bulk bid out there, we can normally get a lower rate. As you can see in that Gardner's new electrical rate beginning on November 1st is going to be at 23 cents per kilowatt hour, as compared to the rate that National Grid recently released at 35 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're actually saving money on the city's plan. There are a couple of questions that have been asked to my office that I just wanted to clarify. The first is, if you want to get in this program and you are already on the city's electrical rate, you do not have to do anything. So if you check your electrical bill and you see Nextera, or you see municipal aggregation, or any words like that, you don't have to do anything to get on the city's rate. You are already on that. If you are interested in joining the city's rate, the procedure on how to do that is listed right here on this postcard. If you got the postcard and you thought it was a scam and you threw it out, there are copies of this postcard available on the city's website as well, or you can contact my office or the city engineer's office at any time, and we can certainly help you with that as well, and helping to understand those procedures. If your question is, why did electrical rates double? Because we were only paying around 13 cents last year. The reason being for that is that that rate was locked in a contract that former Mayor Hawk signed back in 2019. Whenever we go out for a contract for municipal aggregation, we can do that for a period of between 1 and 3 years. Back in 2019, Mayor Hawk signed that contract for 3 years, so we've been paying an electrical rate that was set back in 2019. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, before the inflationary periods that we're seeing right now, before things like the war in Ukraine or other things that are going on that really skyrocketed inflation that we're seeing now. So that's why a lot of the prices have generally increased from 2019 to now. However, there is still some uncertainty as to whether the market will go back to a normal rate next year. So that is why, at the advice of our consultants that we have working with us on these electrical rates, I only signed this rate on a 1-year basis in the contract, to make sure that if the market does go back down to a reasonable number, and not that the 23 isn't reasonable, as we've seen with the National Grid being much higher than that, but it's still higher than it was before, we can go back if rates do go down again. So that's why I signed a 1-year contract for that. Some other places have done a 6-month contract, but typically your winter rates tend to be higher than the fall rates. So that's why we did a full year, just to try to get the best rates that we could for our residents here. And again, if you have any questions on those processes at all, you can contact my office at any time, and we can certainly walk you through all of those. And again, this is available on the city's website as well. The last thing we want to mention is all election related. 2,600 mail-in ballots have already been sent out by the city clerk's office. When you're doing those back, you have the option of either mailing your ballot back or putting it in the drop box located in front of Gardner City Hall. In between the City Hall building and the Manka Annex building, the old courthouse is pretty visible there, and it actually says voting drop box in big letters on it. So you can slip your ballot in there if you don't want to mail it, or you can hand deliver it to the city clerk's office as well. Or if you'd like to vote early in person, the hours are as follows. On Saturday, October 22nd, the early voting can be utilized by the public at Perry Auditorium here in Gardner City Hall from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This coming Monday through Friday of next week, early voting will be available from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Perry Auditorium. On Saturday, October 29th, early voting will be in Perry Auditorium from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is also the last day that you can register to vote, so that's why we have extended hours on that Saturday. So again, if you'd like to register to vote because you've either moved or you're recently turned 18 and you're looking to register to be able to vote in the upcoming November 8th election, you can do that on Saturday as well. And then the following Monday, October 31st, through that Thursday, early voting will be regular City Hall business hours in Perry Auditorium, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with 8 o'clock to 1 p.m. on that Friday. Again, there is no early voting on the Saturday, Sunday, or Monday before the election. And then on November 8th, Tuesday, the election day, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at our 5 polling locations: Ward 1 at the Gardner Elks, Ward 2 at the Gardner Library, Ward 3 at Gardner City Hall, Ward 4 at the Police Department, and Ward 5 at the Polish American Citizens Club. And if you have any information on where do I vote, how do I vote, what are the options I can vote, you can feel free to contact our city clerk's office at any time. However, that concludes this week's update. As always, if you have any further information that you're looking for, if you have any questions on things that were mentioned in this update, you can contact my office at any time and we're happy to talk to you. Thank you very much and have a good day.